can money actually buy happiness? So this is a real popular question that a lot of people have kind of debated, and they've gone back and forth over the years. I kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on this topic from experience and from my current thought process and my past views on it. There's going to be a lot of value in this video, so keep watching because I'm sure you'll be able to resonate with a lot of the points I'm going to make in this video. Now, this topic is highly controversial, okay? And for some reason, so many people disagree with it, and it's really dependent on which side of the fence you're on, if you have money or you don't have money. And this kind of skews your kind of whole thought process on this, because you don't really know what it's like on the other side until you get there, and the people who were born on the other side don't know what it's like on the other side because they'll never get there. So it's an interesting kind of thing where it's like a very polarizing topic, right? And I kind of want to discuss my experience from not really having much money to kind of having a little bit of money right now while I'm on my current journey to actually try and create a good amount of wealth for myself. So we've got to talk about money and the kind of themes that surround it to actually come to a conclusion on this point. So the first section I want to talk about, which is kind of interesting, is the whole amplifying effect that money has. Money enhances our qualities and our habits that we already have. Even if you don't have any money, you're always going to be kind of like a set point, and you're always going to have the kind of same behaviors and thought process on things. So for an example, if you're a bad person when you're poor, you're probably going to be an equally, if not worse person when you have access to money, right? It's an amplifier of who you already are. But if you're a good person and then you get money, then you're probably going to be an even better person. For an example, Mr. Beast, he uses a ton of money to give back to charity, and he gives money away. And unfortunately, people still say things to him like, oh, this is just for taxes, or you're just doing it for videos. But you always get those kind of people, right, who just complain about anything good that people do. But it basically amplifies you as a person. So when people say money changed you or you've changed, they usually didn't. They just got money and resources to be able to bring out their true character, but they were always like that way, okay? So money doesn't really change people, it just amplifies who they already are. So if you're a good person without money, you're going to be a good person with money, or a better person. If you're a bad person without money, you'll probably be worse because you have more money to like make people's lives worse and just generally just be horrible. Then there's this whole meme around like crypto geeks, or so-called crypto geeks, right? This is like where people made a ton of money like in the bull run, and money didn't really change them. This is also another great example because like money didn't change them, it just amplified them. It's like they're still a geek, they're just now a rich geek. And I didn't make that up, that's like a saying or something, I can't remember where I heard it, but like they didn't spend time going to the gym, they didn't spend time actually building on the character or like getting to that place. They just made a ton of money out of like luck, or just by like a one good deal or something, like a peak time, and then they've lost like that whole like build up phase. When you're actually trying to get a lot of money from coming from a very poor place, you kind of have that like hero and villain arc where like you go up and then you get knocked down again, and it's like this journey through trials and tribulations to get there, and it's like a really good character building experience. But with like a lot of people who actually made a lot of money off crypto, they just got rich like over a series of like a few weeks or months, and especially the ones that are really young, they didn't really have to go through that character building experience. So that's a really good example. Now I have a friend who is quite wealthy from crypto, but he goes to the gym and he basically focuses a lot on self-improvement. Now another point is that money alleviates financial stress, and this is no lie, right? Because it alleviates financial struggles and the impact that financial problems have on your mental well-being. This only really fixes the problem of depression and stress that comes specifically from not having money or enough of it. So it fixes the problem of not having money and the stress and depression that comes from not having any money, but that's the only problem that it actually fixes. But what's interesting is that most struggling marriages and divorces that actually happen, a very high percentage of these are actually related to financial problems or hardships. So it's quite interesting to have a look at the statistics on that, because for the most point, that would actually solve most people's problems in that area. We can't really lie, like money provides a good sense of security and stability. Even if you only have a small amount, you can really see the difference when you come from having none of it. Now for me personally, I've always had a lot of problems from never really having any money. I have a lot of experiences that I've had in my life which have been very problematic because I've not had the money to actually do things, or I've not had the money to actually make certain choices that I wish I could have made. Or for an example, when I first applied for my visa in Europe, the first time round I didn't actually get the visa because I didn't have money to actually be able to get it, and it was a real struggle. So all these things come from the problems of money, and then they create a lot of mental taxation and depression and problems, which I've also experienced from that too. But that's mainly a money problem. Once you solve the money problem, if you don't have other issues, then that solves it for you. But if you have like intrinsic problems in your life or problems that come from something else, then just having money isn't going to fix that for you, and that's something that a lot of people don't realize. Then we'll move on to the whole theme of comfort and convenience. Money allows us to access resources easier and save time. I've kind of experienced this to a small degree where when I want to actually do a certain job that I don't like, I can just outsource it to someone. Like I would pay maybe like a contractor on Upwork or Fiverr to do me some short videos, which now I can just use an AI tool to do that, so I don't need people to do that for me. But that saves me time, and it also saves me stress, and also I can buy certain luxuries or business expenses, like things for my business that will help me in my business because I have money. So it allows me to access resources easier, and also, for an example, I can travel basically whenever I want, which is also a real nice comfort of having money. But that's also a comfort from having location freedom from running an online business rather than working in an office as well. But money generally increases comfort in our lives. Even if we're not millionaires, even if we're not extremely wealthy, having a decent amount of money improves a lot of comfort. One example of comfort with money is this food box over here. You probably wonder why I'm showing you this. This is actually from a meal prep service that I've actually started buying from. This saves me a lot of time because I don't have to cook. It's kind of like a whole comfort thing because it's real tasty food and it's really healthy, and it has a lot of fruit and vegetables in it, which I don't typically really eat because I'm always focused on my work and I just grab whatever food's there, right? This allows me to eat healthily and focus on my fitness goals without even having to think about it, which means that I'll probably get in pretty good shape by summer with the least effort actually needed. All I have to do is just eat 3 or 4 of these meals every day, do exercise, and just passively basically just lose weight. It's very easy to do, and I can basically do that because I have the money to actually order that food, and that gives me the comfort of basically a peace of mind, and it allows me to focus on other areas of my life. So that's a good example too. Now, having money also adds that whole security blanket, so it leads to a more relaxed and less anxious lifestyle. A lot of people have a lot of anxiety because they don't have money as well, and that's another thing that I've experienced. Not really to the degree of some people. It's brought a lot of situations of pain in my life, but a lot of people get a lot of anxiety from actually not having enough money. Now, I've kind of felt like this actually, to be honest, if I think about it. If I've been at a point where I have a low amount of money, or I've spent maybe too much on business expenses, or I'm spending a lot each month on certain things, I know it's good for the long run, but you only have so much from your income from your business each month or your paycheck each month, and once it's gone, the only solution is making more money. The average person is thinking about saving more money and penny pinching, but saving doesn't increase your income, and it's still a problem for the long term. It is a common thing where maybe sometimes I get anxious where I need to make more money, but that just comes with time and patience and a long-term thought process and outlook on the business. But a lot of people who work typical normal jobs, they always worry about living paycheck to paycheck. So when they've spent all the money each month, maybe it's from bad money management, but in a lot of circumstances, they just make too low of an income and they can't afford things, and then they have to wait till the next paycheck, and then they get in debt, especially when people bring out things like loans. That's a lot of anxiety created from a lack of money as well. And of course, it offers like a whole role of financial stability, and that adds to your overall happiness compass, right? Because you can think of like the feeling of happiness as like a compass. Like that adds as just one factor into it. Although I don't agree with the whole kind of premise that everyone should be happy all the time 100%, because for the most part it's kind of like a swing where you need a balance between the emotions, because you can't really feel the great times if you don't have the bad times as well. So then we have limitations surrounding money. So we need to recognize that money can't fix all of our problems. It can only fix the problems caused by a lack of money. People think getting a Lamborghini is going to make them happy, but if someone died in the family or if they have bad health, that literally means nothing, right? But if they've never had money and they can't afford their apartment and they're always stressing, and then money comes into their life, well, then it's going to fix their life because that was their only issue. This is why you need to first actually address the non-financial challenges in your life first to see if money is actually the real culprit. Because like we said before, money can't buy health. Money is only second to health in terms of struggles. And even billionaires like Steve Jobs, God rest his soul in peace obviously, struggle when it comes to health, okay? Because he had very poor health unfortunately towards the end of his life, and all his money couldn't obviously do anything towards that. So you need to think about that in retrospect as well. I got immensely sick recently for like nearly a month, and all of the progress that I'd made in my business and any money that I did have literally meant nothing because I had really bad health. So that's also another thing which you don't actually realize in the process until something kind of kicks you in the head and wakes you up to the fact. And then we have balance. Now, I think this is quite an interesting point. So there's an importance of maintaining perspective and balance in life, right? It can be very easy to kind of get lost and go into this hyper productivity mode and kind of neglect the other things which are kind of important as well. So we have like health, friends, and family are the most important things, and then you have wealth after that, okay? So those are the core things which always come before money. And it's always important too to focus on non-materialistic values. So eventually you'll get bored and you'll have nothing left to buy if you have a lot of money, and you can never really one-up yourself past a certain level or a certain point. So you see a lot of people who buy like outrageous stuff and eventually they just get bored. Like sometimes people haven't got money. Sometimes it can be kind of hard to see rich people talk about how they're just bored of not being able to buy anything, or money can't really buy anything. It's because they've bought all these crazy stuff that they thought they wanted, and then they realized they didn't want it, and now it's lost that whole dopamine feel of actually acquiring it. Buying a lot of things with money eventually gets boring. It kind of rubs off. It's like it's an effect that just wears off. So it's important to focus on non-materialistic values, because if you're only trying to be materialistic and that's why you want money, that's not really the right way to think about it. Money is a great thing to get leverage over something, or to solve a problem, or to have utility, but just to buy materialistic possessions with it is not really a great use of money, in my opinion. And then I kind of want to discuss my whole kind of situation on money and from my own experiences. So this is kind of like my personal conclusion that I've come to, and I'm going to kind of encompass all the points that we've been talking about throughout this video and kind of bring them into a story, because I think storytelling is very powerful. You come away with more value when you can actually apply it to a real story or a tale in real life, and I think it empowers the whole experience of watching a video like this. It makes it more personal, right? So I've never actually been rich as a kid, which I think was always a good thing, because I think when you're raised on a lot of wealth, it kind of gives you a lot of comfort. I think if you're raised with not really having much money, I think it keeps a fire beneath you to not waste time and actually try to make more and try and get somewhere. I think if you're raised as one of these rich kids who come up in a private school and they get everything given to them and handed down to them, I feel like they just have everything and there's just a very specific sense of comfort. And if you already have all the money in the world, then you're always thinking about your parent who's a billionaire is going to give you money for free as a handout or a loan, and you never really have those kind of trials and tribulations. So I think it's a good experience to come from not a lot, or just come from an average money making family. And also a personal experience for me was during the COVID pandemic. So during the COVID pandemic, there was a lot of problems with travel. Now, one thing which kind of coincided during this whole time is also Brexit. This was kind of happening like all at the same time. We had like the COVID pandemic, then we also had Brexit as well. And with Brexit, there was kind of new rules coming into place. I think it started in like 2016, like the whole vote for it, but it didn't come into place until like the end of 2020 or 2021. So it was like kind of finalizing towards like the start of COVID, right? And the problem for me is I originally had wanted to move to Austria or live in Austria for a few years originally, right? This is the first time that I came here, and basically, first of all, it was hard to travel because of COVID, and I got stuck in the country and I couldn't travel. And then when I could first travel, the Brexit window had finalized, right? So for anyone who doesn't know, if you wanted to move or live in Europe before Brexit, when the UK were classed as EU citizens, you could basically live anywhere you wanted in the EU. You didn't need to make a specific amount of money to live there. You could just move, live in an apartment just like you could in the United Kingdom, for an example, just like you can in England, for an example, and just live anywhere without any kind of restrictions. That's the benefits of EU free movement, which is under like the whole EU membership thing. But after Brexit, they removed this. We weren't members of the EU. We didn't have free movement to work or live. So you have to apply for certain visas, which are for third world or third country nationals, who are people who live outside of Europe, right? And basically these visas, they have kind of specific requirements. So you either need to be like an asylum seeker, you need to have like a very rare skill that makes you hyper valuable to that country, so they just accept you anyway, or you need to actually make a certain threshold of income. So for an example, for this visa, when I first applied to it, they said that I needed to have, I think it was like 30 to 40,000 euros liquid cash in my bank account, which was way too high of a figure when I first heard that, right? And because of this visa problem and not having enough money, this was back in like 2021, the first attempt I had to move back home, which was a very bad experience, right? So it created kind of like this association of pain linked to money. So that kind of also gave me some really great motivation, but it kind of creates that relationship where like the lack of money creates like a sense of pain or problems, and I obviously never wanted to deal with that stress again. So that's kind of like the root start of that issue for me. So that's kind of like the relationship that formed with money for me. This kind of was good. I think this was kind of like mostly a good takeaway for me, because it kind of pushed me to be very hyper productive. But also a positive, but also a negative, was having a hyper tunnel vision on money, okay? And this kind of meant that like other things that were going on as well were kind of pushed to the side, because I'm always usually focused on trying to make more money, which can sometimes be a negative, but for the most part it's usually quite beneficial. But this can also create like a vacuum, right, where you kind of use money and success as a distraction to avoid personal problems and losses. So that can be a problem, things that I've dealt with as well. And like I said earlier, when I was sick for a month, it really kind of hit me that it didn't really matter how much money I'd made or how much money that I could make or what I actually owned or the products that I made, because I wouldn't be able to enjoy it if I would pass away, for an example. So these are the kind of things you got to think about, where money is not the number one most important thing. So my key takeaways for this were money is extremely important, and you can't really live a good life of comfort without money. And to be honest, it should definitely be one of your main focuses. videos. But even though I've achieved quite a lot so far, I am still on this whole like journey and pathway to make money online. It's kind of like a never-ending journey, right? Even with all the progress of subscribers on my other channel, for example, and any money or aspirations that I had and still have, really meant nothing if I was to not have health in that situation. So it was kind of like a big health scare that woke me up to that. And it also reminded me that a lot of friendships, which I'd not really been maintaining or kind of flowering, if you like, were very important, and that I need to spend more time in actually flourishing as well, because obviously family, friends, and relationships are very important, and sometimes you can get sidetracked from those. There's a lot of friends that I don't really talk to enough, and some best friends where sometimes when I'm focused on like my business and YouTube, I don't talk to enough as well. So that was another big takeaway from that. But another takeaway is, even when things like that happen, you should never lose focus on drive, because it's a very important thing with like the whole experience of being like a young man to have like drive towards doing a business. So I think it's very important to keep personal drive. I think that's paramount, but having a balance is key. And I don't mean work-life balance or like the balance of slacking off and doing nothing, because that's a whole other myth as well. But having a balance between friends, family, relationships, work, and then also just having fun in life and trying to like keep a balance of having like a good professional and a good home life. I think those are two key takeaways from that. But it also kind of makes me come to the conclusion that money's linked to happiness is kind of complex, right? It's multifaceted. It has all these kind of heads to it, and once you cut off one head, another one grows, and it's kind of hard to come to a conclusion with it. But there's so many kind of explanations for each and everything, and it kind of comes down to everyone's like personal experience, lived experience, and things they've gone through, and kind of like how they were raised, the challenges they faced, and this kind of affects their importance that they have on money. But the key takeaway, which is important, and I don't really think this is entirely up for debate, I think this is kind of like the best way I can describe it, is that happiness requires more than wealth alone. I think we can all agree with that. But it kind of equates somewhere upon health and wealth, which is why you hear the saying like health equals wealth, right? Which kind of is true in this regard. But I think at the end of the day, reflection upon like what brings true contentment to you and fulfillment is key. And I think that's the most important way that you'll actually find an answer to questions like these. It's kind of like personal to you. It's like, how valuable is it to you? Because as a whole, it kind of applies differently to everyone. And then this kind of leads me on to the last section, which is like the whole theme of giving back. Because when you have money, you can also give money, and you get like a great sense of satisfaction from helping others through like philanthropy, right? Philanthropic endeavors are actually extremely gratifying to yourself, and you kind of have to experience that first. It's like, for an example, I mentioned Mr. Beast earlier, right? Mr. Beast is always giving back. He doesn't care about haters who are saying that he's doing it for a different reason. He just does it because he enjoys it and it makes himself feel good. And it's the same to all of us, right? I mean, I like charity. It makes me feel good. I don't ever post about it because I just don't really think it gives you the right value. It kind of removes my personal satisfaction if I would just like advertise it. I think for most people it would, and people get like the wrong idea of you, that you're just like doing it for attention. But if I see something where I want to donate to help someone, I will. Have done it in the past. And also, most people like donate to homeless people. I mean, when I'm on vacation, there's a lot of homeless people where some of them are real homeless people, and then some of them are probably trying to scam you and they're not actually homeless. But I still kind of make an effort just to try and give them like a few coins or a little bit of money anyway, because at the end of the day, it's like it makes you feel good, and how they use the money is kind of like their own problem. If they're using it for like bad means, or if they're trying to scam you out of money and they're not actually homeless, that's like their problem. If they're like not being a good person, I think for the most part it has like a positive impact on like you as the giver and then the person receiving it, right? And money does have a general positive potential for a positive impact on the world. But then again, you also have to realize that like billionaires like Bill Gates, they can only give back so much, because all of their wealth probably won't be able to save the world, which a lot of people don't understand. For an example, I remember like there's a lot of people shaming people for donations. Like Jeff Bezos, he's probably worth like, what is it, over like $100 billion, and he donated like, how much was it? It might have even been $100 million he donated. It might have been 100k, but I think it was like 100 million. I think he donated like $100 million, and then people still complained that he donated only like this percentage of his wealth. People just complain about anything, and obviously you have the people saying he donated for tax reasons, tax relief, but you always get those kind of people. There's benefits to the person donating and benefits to the person receiving it, and I think that's the way we should look at it, right? This was kind of like a really random video. I just thought it was kind of like a very thought-provoking topic I kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on and cover. Usually I do tutorials on this video or kind of like valuable business videos. This was just a topic that was really interesting to me, and I had like a personal lived experience I could share. So make sure to like this video. video and subscribe if you found it useful or valuable in some way. And I want to know what your opinions are in the comment section below of this whole like theme and topic. Can money really buy happiness? What's your personal view on it? How has money kind of played its role in your life and what are your experiences? I kind of want to hear what you have as thoughts on this topic because this is very interesting to me. And also share this video just to spread awareness, try and get the conversation going in the comments, and stay tuned for more business, finance, and travel videos real soon.